Admiral Hannah Park watched through the main viewport as the alien ships approached. They were massive gleaming vessels that dwarfed the horizon in both size and number. The stars seemed to bend around their hulls, suggesting technology far beyond Earth's understanding. "They're magnificent," whispered Hannah, her voice barely audible on the hushed bridge. The horizon represented humanity's greatest achievement, Earth's first true deep space diplomatic vessel, built specifically for this mission after the alien signals had been decoded 3 years earlier. Now, after a journey of 18 months, first contact was moments away. Lieutenant Jum Kim monitored his communications console with steady hands despite his obvious excitement. "They're hailing us again, Admiral." "Same frequency as before." Hannah straightened her uniform jacket. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a being with iridescent scales and 4 eyes positioned around a central speaking apparatus. The translator rendered its sounds into smooth, almost musical English. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. I am High Commander Roll of the Galactic Hegemony. We welcome your species to the greater community of sentient life." Hannah performed the carefully rehearsed greeting that Earth's combined governments had prepared. "We come with peaceful intentions and hopes for friendship and mutual growth." The first meeting took place aboard the Hegemony's flagship, a vessel so vast it contained its own ecological systems. Hannah led a small team including scientists, diplomats, and security personnel. The Hegemony representatives included 6 different species, each more alien than the last, but all united under common governance. "Your development has been remarkable," said Rule as they toured the human delegation through great halls filled with technological wonders. "Most species take twice as long to achieve spaceflight after discovering atomic energy." Dr. Sung, Earth's lead xenobiologist, couldn't contain his questions. "How many worlds does the Hegemony encompass?" 312 inhabited worlds across 78 star systems, answered a tall, willowy being introduced as the science minister. "With your Earth, it will be 313. Over the next 2 days, initial agreements were signed. The Hegemony offered medical technology that could cure most human diseases. Earth offered its art, music, and unique biological diversity. The Horizon's crew celebrated with a small party that evening, drinking rare champagne saved for this historic moment. "We've done it," Hannah told her executive officer as they watched crew members dancing in the recreation bay. "Humanity has finally joined the galactic community." In her quarters that night, Hannah recorded a personal log. "Something feels off about the Hegemony representatives. They ask too many questions about our military capabilities and seem surprised by our answers. Their interest in our genetic diversity seems excessive. Still, this is probably normal caution when meeting a new species. I'll maintain optimism but keep alert." On the 3rd day, the Hegemony requested detailed scans of human neural patterns for translation purposes. Dr. Sung expressed concerns privately to Hannah, but the diplomatic team overruled them, not wanting to seem uncooperative. Hannah was deep asleep when the alarms blared through her quarters. She was instantly awake, years of military training taking over as she pulled on her uniform and ran for the bridge. The corridor lights flashed red. Crew members rushed to stations, faces tense with confusion and fear. When the bridge doors opened, Hannah found chaos. The view screen showed 5 massive Hegemony warships that hadn't been there before, their weapons ports glowing with energy. "Report," she barked, taking her command chair. Tactical Officer Ta Li's hands flew across his console. "They've opened fire without warning. Multiple Hegemony warships decloaking on all sides." The ship rocked violently as another impact struck. The shields were failing already. "Return fire," ordered Hannah, knowing their weapons were likely useless against the advanced alien technology. "Communications are being jammed," reported June. "Wait. They're sending something through." The screen changed to show High Commander Rule, now surrounded by military officers rather than diplomats. "Admiral Park, you should feel honored. Rarely do we spend this much time evaluating a new species before determining their fate." "Why are you attacking us?" Hannah demanded. We came in peace. Yes, and your peace is precisely the problem. Our analysis of your neural patterns, history, and biology confirms what we suspected. Humans are too unpredictable and dangerous to join our ranks. Your extinction is necessary for galactic stability. Another blast rocked the ship. Emergency systems wailed in protest. Engineering reports critical damage to the drive systems, said the executive officer. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Hannah made the hardest decision of her career. Abandon ship. All personnel to escape pods immediately. As the bridge crew rushed to comply, Hannah downloaded the ship's logs and all collected data on the hegemony to her personal device. This information had to reach Earth. In the chaos of evacuation, only 12 escape pods managed to launch before the horizon broke apart in a final explosion. The small pods, designed to be difficult to detect, scattered in different directions. Hannah's pod held 5 survivors: herself, June, Ta, Dr. Sung, and a junior engineer. They watched in horror as the hegemony ships methodically destroyed the other escape pods they could track. "They're not pursuing us," whispered June after 3 tense hours. "I think we're outside their sensor range." "The other pods?" asked Hannah. Tai checked the limited sensors. "I'm detecting 4 others on long-range scan. The rest." He didn't need to finish. Dr. Sung looked at the data Hannah had saved. "They were studying us like lab specimens from the beginning. Everything. The friendship, the technology exchange. It was all to assess whether we were worth preserving." Hannah stared out at the stars, her face hardened with resolve. "Earth needs to know. We have 2 years of supplies in these pods. We'll make it home." As the small pod accelerated toward Earth, its occupants became the bearers of humanity's most important warning. Behind them, the hegemony fleet began preparations for a larger campaign. The extinction of humanity was now officially sanctioned, and the invasion force would follow soon. The escape pods carrying Admiral Hannah Park and the other Horizon survivors entered Earth's atmosphere on a rainy Tuesday. Within hours, the world changed forever. The data they brought, proof of hostile alien intentions, went straight to the highest levels of government. For the first time in human history, Earth's nations faced a threat greater than each other. Emergency sessions of the United Nations lasted for days. Old enemies sat across tables from one another, viewing the same terrifying evidence. "They'll be coming," Hannah told room after room of grim-faced leaders. "And they won't stop until we're extinct." 6 months passed in a blur of activity. Militaries combined, resources pooled, scientific research accelerated at unprecedented rates, and deep beneath the Himalayas, carved into the ancient mountains, humanity built its last hope: the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force. General Da Han was chosen to lead the UEDF by unanimous global agreement. A veteran of conflicts across Asia and a brilliant strategist, he had once been feared by half the world. Now he stood before representatives from every nation, his weathered face projected on screens worldwide. "For thousands of years, we have fought each other over land, resources, ideology, and religion," he said, his voice deep and steady. "Today, we put aside centuries of conflict. Today, Earth stands as one." His words echoed through the massive underground chamber. No applause followed, only silent determination from the assembled leaders. "Admiral Park has provided us with fragments of alien technology recovered from the horizon," Da continued. "Our scientists work day and night to understand it. We have less than 18 months before the hegemony arrives in force." The technological race became humanity's sole focus. Military factories converted to produce components that didn't exist 6 months earlier. Children learned new math to understand alien concepts. The best minds on Earth worked themselves to exhaustion. Dr. Jin Song had been a theoretical physicist at Seoul National University before the Horizon incident. Now she led a team of thousands, studying the strange devices Hannah had managed to smuggle back to Earth. Jin worked 18-hour days. She slept on a cot in her lab and rarely saw the sun. After 4 months of failure, her team finally activated one of the alien devices. 3 weeks later, they understood what it did. The breakthrough came at 3:17 a.m. Jin was alone in the lab when the test material, a simple metal cube, flickered and seemed to become transparent before reappearing. Again, she whispered to herself, running the test once more. Again, the cube partially vanished. By morning, she had proof. By evening, she stood before the UEDF Council, dark circles under her eyes but energy in her voice. "We call it phase shift technology," Jin explained, pointing to the device now connected to Earth computers. "It allows matter to temporarily exist outside normal spacetime, essentially becoming invisible and intangible." General Dai leaned forward. Meaning a ship equipped with this technology could pass through solid objects, appear and disappear at will, be completely undetectable by any conventional means. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "Can we reproduce it?" asked the representative from Nigeria. Jin nodded. "We already have at small scale. Scaling up for ships will be challenging but possible." "Resources?" asked the American delegate. "Everything we have," replied General Day, ending the discussion. From that moment, Earth's industrial might focused on one goal: building a fleet equipped with phase shift technology. Former automobile factories in Detroit produced to drive components. Shipyards in China and Korea worked around the clock constructing hulls. Indian software engineers wrote code to control the alien tech. Every nation contributed what they could. Orbital construction platforms took shape, hidden on the far side of the moon. Raw materials flowed upward on newly built space elevators. What would have taken decades in peacetime happened in months under the threat of extinction. Admiral Hannah Park visited these shipyards weekly, watching humanity's first war fleet take shape. The trauma of the horizon haunted her dreams, but during waking hours, her focus remained absolute. "The Vengeance will be ready next month," said the shipyard director as they floated through the nearly completed flagship. At 800 meters long, it dwarfed anything humans had built in space before. Hannah ran her hand along a corridor wall. "And the phase shift system. Dr. Jin is personally overseeing the installation. It's the most advanced version we have." They reached the bridge, sleek, functional, designed for war rather than exploration. Hannah moved to the center chair, rested her hands on its arms. "Admiral," the director asked, "is something wrong?" Hannah shook her head. "Just thinking about how quickly everything changed. A year ago, this ship would have been impossible, not just technologically, but because we couldn't work together." "Nothing unites like a common enemy," the director said. "We needed to be united anyway," Hannah replied. "It shouldn't have taken a threat of extinction." The next day, General Dai made it official. The Vengeance would serve as humanity's flagship, and Admiral Park would command it. The woman who had witnessed humanity's first betrayal by the stars would lead the counterattack. As the first ships of Earth's fleet completed construction, long-range sensors detected what everyone feared: movement at the edges of the solar system. The hegemony vanguard had arrived. In the UEDF headquarters, General Da gathered his commanders. "The moment approaches faster than expected. Are we ready?" Admiral Park stood. 30 ships operational with phase shift capability, another 40 nearing completion. "Will it be enough?" asked the European commander. Hannah's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held steel. "It has to be." That night, she walked alone through the Vengeance's corridors. Soon these passageways would be filled with crew, Earth's finest, drawn from every nation. Soon, they would face an enemy with vastly superior numbers and centuries more experience in space warfare. But they had one advantage. The hegemony didn't know about the phase shift technology, or the humans had already replicated it. They expected to find a primitive species awaiting slaughter. Instead, they would face humanity united, fighting for survival. "They think we're prey," Hannah whispered to herself as she stood on the bridge of the ship that would carry humanity's hopes. It's time they learned we're predators too. The massive hegemony flagship, Eternal Dominion, entered the Sol system near the orbit of Pluto. Behind it followed a fleet that stretched for thousands of kilometers. 50 capital ships and hundreds of smaller vessels. Their hulls gleamed with the strange metals of distant star systems, and their weapons had conquered dozens of species. On the command deck, Admiral Roll surveyed the holographic display of the solar system. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction among his kind. This system is resource-rich, he noted to his second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Nex, the 3rd planet particularly. Once we cleanse it of the human infestation, it will make an excellent colony world. Nex studied the tactical display. Our scouts report minimal orbital defenses. Their military satellites are primitive. As expected, said Rule. Primitives like these usually surrender at first sight of our fleet. We may not even need to deploy our main weapons. The Hegemony Council had allocated more ships than necessary for this operation. Standard procedure called for 5 capital ships to subjugate a pre-interstellar civilization. 50 was excessive, but Rull appreciated the caution. Something about these humans had made the Council nervous. The fleet moved inward at a measured pace, establishing sensor arrays at strategic points. 3 scout ships broke formation and headed toward Neptune, where human mining operations had been detected. Standard procedure, Rull explained to his bridge officers. Eliminate their outer resource operations first. Cut them off from raw materials. By the time we reach their homeworld, they'll be desperate. None of the scout ships returned. Rull was in his private quarters when the alert came. He rushed to the bridge to find his officers in confusion. What happened? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, said the sensor officer. The scouts approached the human mining facilities as ordered. Then they simply vanished. Destroyed? No debris. No energy signatures. No distress signals. They disappeared from our sensors simultaneously. Rull's skin darkened, the equivalent of a human frown. Send a destroyer squadron. Full combat alert. I want to know what happened. 5 destroyers approached Neptune cautiously. Weapons charge. They scanned the mining facilities thoroughly but found them seemingly abandoned. No life signs, reported the squadron commander, but the facilities appear operational. Approach and board, ordered Rull. Find out. His words were cut short as the destroyers reported new contacts. 3 human vessels appeared without warning, directly beside the hegemony ships. Not approaching from a distance, simply there, where moments before sensors had shown nothing. Before the destroyers could react, concentrated fire tore through their shields. 2 exploded immediately. The others managed to return fire briefly before they too were destroyed. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Rull watched in disbelief as the human ships vanished from sensors as suddenly as they had appeared. How? He demanded. How did they do that? None of his officers had answers. The hegemony fleet accelerated toward the inner system, all pretense of easy conquest abandoned. Rull ordered continuous sensor sweeps and defensive formations. When they reached Uranus, they found more abandoned human outposts. This time, Rull ordered bombardment from a distance. The facilities were reduced to slag, but no human ships appeared. They're being selective about engaging, Nex observed. Conserving forces. They should have no forces capable of threatening us, Rull snapped. The intelligence from their ship, the Horizon, showed primitive weapons technology. As the fleet approached Saturn, Rull received a transmission from the Hegemony Council. The subjugation is proceeding according to plan, he reported, omitting mention of the lost ships. No need to cause concern yet. Near Jupiter, the Hegemony fleet encountered their next surprise. As they moved to destroy the human stations on Ganymede, 15 UDF vessels appeared within their formation. This time, the attack came from inside their defensive screens. The battle lasted 6 minutes. The Hegemony lost 12 ships, mostly smaller vessels, but including 1 light cruiser. The human ships took damage, but demonstrated their strange ability to fade from normal space before destruction. Rull could no longer hide the truth from his superiors. The humans possess some form of cloaking technology we've never encountered, he reported to the grim-faced council members. They can appear without warning inside our formations. How is this possible? Demanded the council leader. Your report from their diplomatic vessel showed no such capability. They must have developed it recently, or kept it hidden, Rull replied. We're adjusting tactics. The fleet reorganized, placing smaller vessels as a screen around the capital ships. They advanced toward Mars, now moving more cautiously. The Red Planet and its moons have been colonized by humans decades earlier. Commander Sun Choi, a veteran of Earth's pre-unification conflicts, had been given command of the Martian defense. Unlike Admiral Park, Sun favored unconventional tactics. She had transformed the civilian infrastructure of Mars and its moons into a defensive network. Mining charges became impromptu torpedoes. Civilian shuttles carried soldiers for boarding actions. The phase shift technology was used not just for ambush, but for rapid retreat. The hegemony fleet arrived at Mars expecting another quick skirmish. Instead, they found themselves in a protracted battle across the entire region. They're using the planet's dust storms to mask movements, reported a frustrated hegemony captain. And those moons, they've turned Phobos into a fortress. From her command center deep within Phobos, Commander Sun coordinated the defense. When hegemony ships approached, UED of vessels would phase shift into position, fire, and disappear before counterattacks could land. When the hegemony tried to bombard the surface, hidden phase shift generators protected key areas, making the projectiles pass harmlessly through. They fight like nothing we've encountered, Rull reported to the Hegemony Council after 2 weeks of frustrating combat. They refuse conventional engagement. They strike and fade. They use their environment with cunning. We need reinforcements. The Council was displeased. You have 50 capital ships against a pre-FTL species, a species with technology we don't understand, Rull countered. Send reinforcements, or I cannot guarantee success. The request was reluctantly granted, but it would take 3 months for additional forces to arrive from the nearest hegemony stronghold. On Earth, UEDF headquarters received the news of the Martian defense with cautious optimism. Commander Sun has done the impossible, General Day told his officers. She's bought us time. Admiral Park, now aboard the Vengeance in lunar orbit, studied the battle reports. Sun's tactics work well for defense, but we'll need more to actually defeat them. 3 more months, Day replied. 3 months to complete our fleet. Park nodded grimly. Let's make every day count. In his private quarters aboard the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Rull reviewed the footage of the human attacks again and again. How were they appearing and disappearing at will? What was the principle behind this technology? And more troubling, if they had developed this in just the short time since the Horizon incident, what else might they develop given more time? For the first time in his long career, Rull felt something unfamiliar: doubt. The War Council gathered in the deepest chamber of the Himalayan headquarters. 3 months had passed since the Martian standoff began. Reports from Commander Sun showed that the hegemony fleet remained in position, waiting for reinforcements. Admiral Hannah Park stood before the assembled military leaders from around the world. Her uniform, once crisp, now hung loosely on her frame after months of endless work. But her eyes remained sharp, focused. We can't win by defending alone, she told the UEDF Council, pointing to the holographic display of the solar system. Every day we delay, more hegemony ships arrive. Commander Sun has performed miracles at Mars, but eventually they'll overwhelm her forces. General Dan nodded gravely. What do you propose, Admiral? Operation Thunderstrike, Hannah replied, tapping controls to change the display. We take the war to them. The room fell silent as the plan appeared. It was bold to the point of recklessness, a mission behind enemy lines, deep into hegemony territory. Impossible, muttered the Russian general. We barely know what's beyond our solar system. We have the star charts from the horizon data, Hana countered. And we know the hegemony has concentrated their forces here for the invasion. Their home systems may be less defended than they've ever been. Dr. Jin Song, now the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, spoke up. We've developed a new version of the phase shift drive. Theoretically, it could allow a ship to travel between stars without using conventional space. No need for jump gates or wormholes like the hegemony uses. This caused a stir. Faster than light travel had been considered decades away. Theoretically, asked the Chinese admiral. We haven't tested it at full scale, Jin admitted, but our simulations are promising. After hours of debate, the council approved the mission with a single condition: volunteer crews only. No one would be ordered on what might be a suicide mission. They didn't need to worry. When the call went out, every pilot and crew member in the UEDF volunteered. Commander Min Kang was selected to lead the mission. At 34, she had been one of Earth's most decorated test pilots before the Horizon incident. Since then, she had led more successful engagements against hegemony forces than any other officer. Her ship, the Shadow, underwent final modifications in the lunar shipyards. It wasn't large, just 60 meters from bow to stern, with a crew of 12. But it carried the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. This is the control module for the phase shift drive, explained Dr. Jin as she guided Min through the engine room. Normal phase shifting allows the ship to step sideways out of space a time. This extended version should allow you to step completely out and back in at a distant point. Min ran her hand over the strange, glowing components. Should. Jin smiled thinly. Welcome to the bleeding edge, Commander. The night before departure, Min sat alone in her quarters, recording messages for her family in case she didn't return. She was interrupted by a knock at the door. Admiral Park entered, carrying 2 cups of steaming tea. I thought you might be up, she said, offering one to Min. They sat in silence for a moment, sipping the bitter liquid. Any advice? Min finally asked. Hana considered the question. Trust your instincts. The hegemony thinks in patterns. It's their weakness. They don't adapt quickly. And if we find nothing useful out there, then come home. We'll find another way. The Shadow departed without ceremony. Only a handful of officials knew of its mission. As Earth's defenders watched, the small ship activated its conventional engines, moved to a safe distance, then simply vanished. Min experienced the phase shift as a moment of absolute silence. The ship's systems briefly went dark, then returned. Outside the viewports, stars had changed position. Position, she asked her navigation officer. After a tense moment, Proxima Centauri system. As planned, the jump worked. The crew exchanged relieved glances. They were the first humans to reach another star system, and they had done it in minutes rather than years. Active scan, asked the tactical officer. Passive only, Min ordered. We observe first. For 3 days, the Shadow moved silently through the Proxima system, using short-range phase shifts to avoid detection. What they found surprised them. The system contained a major hegemony outpost, expected from the horizon data, but instead of a military base, they found what appeared to be a massive mining operation. Thousands of beings toiled on the planets and asteroids, overseen by relatively few hegemony ships. They're slaves, said Min's executive officer as they watched through long-range sensors, or conscripted labor, at least. Further observation revealed that most of the workers belonged to a single reptilian species. They were kept in compounds when not working, guarded by automated systems, and a few hegemony troops. This doesn't match anything in the horizon data about willing coalition members, noted Min. We need to know more. Using the ship's phase shift capability, a small team infiltrated one of the labor compounds during its rest cycle. They captured a supervisor and brought him back to the Shadow for questioning. The captured alien was surprisingly cooperative once he realized the humans weren't hegemony forces. "I am Tarn, once leader of the Krell Collective," he explained through the translation system. "My people have endured their rule for generations. We were among the first the hegemony conquered, over 300 years ago." Min listened with growing interest as Tarn explained the true nature of the galactic hegemony, not a coalition of equals, but an empire built on subjugation. Of the 37 species in the coalition, only 8 were true members. The rest were conquered peoples, their home planets held hostage to ensure their cooperation. "We have waited for any opportunity to rebel," said Tarn, "but their hold is too strong. No species has successfully broken free." "Until now," said Min. "We've been fighting them off for months." Tarn's vertical pupils widened in surprise. "Impossible. No one resists the hegemony." Min showed him footage of the battles at Neptune and Mars. "We have technology they don't understand. And now we're taking the fight to them." A plan formed quickly. With Tarn's help, the Krell workers would sabotage the mining operation from within. Meanwhile, the Shadow would use its phase shift technology to strike at hegemony ships and facilities throughout the system. "If we succeed here," Min told her crew, "we expand to other systems. We hit their supply lines, their communication hubs, their rear echelons. We make them fight a war on 2 fronts." The first strike targeted the hegemony's command center on Proxima's second planet. The Shadow phase shifted directly into the facility's defensive perimeter, fired precisely at its power core, then shifted away before defenders could respond. Within a week, the Krell rebellion had spread throughout the system. The hegemony forces, caught completely by surprise, struggled to respond. Min's team provided the Krell with captured weapons and tactical advice. Together, they launched coordinated strikes against key hegemony supply depots and communication hubs. "This is beyond our mission parameters," warned Min's executive officer as they prepared to hit another target. Min watched as a group of newly freed Krell fighters boarded their first captured ship. Sometimes the mission changes when you find new information. Earth needs allies, not just tactical advantages. As system after system received distress calls from Proxima, hegemony resources intended for the Earth invasion were diverted to contain the unexpected rebellion. In the Sol system, Admiral Rull received the news with disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, reading the reports. The humans couldn't have reached Proxima, let alone instigated a Krell uprising. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Somehow, humanity had taken the war into hegemony space.